called by board to order at 2 p.m. for Tuesday, April 12th, 2022. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 on suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom meeting ID number 854-0032-4335 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager at ATM at @MA.US or 978-772-8220 extension 100 prior to the meeting. So welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Our first item for the agenda is approval of the previous meeting minutes from March 8th, 2022. Are there any edits or comments on the minutes? No. If there aren't any, I'll take a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on for March 8th, 2022.
I'll second.
We'll roll call the vote. Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Ms. Antonellis,
Aye.
Mr. Pombriand,
Aye.
Ms. Tierney,
Aye.
Mr. Aponte.
Aye, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Oh, can I really approve those since I wasn't at the meeting or?
Oh, we'll take your eye anyway.
Okay.
Ms. Gabri.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Minutes are approved. Thank you. Item number 3 on the agenda is the FY 2023 budget and annual town meeting update.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon, excuse me. Just quickly, we're in good shape leading up to town meeting. The select board at their meeting on April the 5th approved the 2022 annual town meeting warrant. That was officially posted on Friday the 8th and has been sent to the printer and for mailing. The FY23 budget, that final version that everyone had, ended up being the one approved in the warrant. There were no changes made to either the warrant or to the budget on April the 5th. So we have that set at this point, and sort of the next step will obviously be on April 25th will be town meeting, but sort of the two items, Mr. Chair, for this afternoon, which we'll get to in a minute, is just to discuss the budget book and the budget presentation for town meeting. I want to thank everybody for all of your input and support on the development of the budget, and in this group also the development of the financial articles. Again, a special thanks to Lisa Gabri. Lisa, this will be her last by-board meeting. But I appreciate all of her efforts on the budget, and welcome Fred Aponte, who will be our finance manager on this group moving forward. So with that, I don't know, Lisa, did you have anything on the FY23 budget or anything on the town meeting warrant related to this?
No, I think it's all been said and done.
Mr. Chair, I don't know.
Anyway. Did it go to printer?
Yeah. So that's sort of the update. It's very short on the budget and annual town meeting update. So why don't we, through you, Mr. Chair, go to number 4, which is the budget book. And we want to get your input on that, as our focus is now going to shift to that and get this put together. We do this internally and have this ready for town meeting. Lisa, did you have anything to add on the budget book specifically?
I have nothing to add. I have been working with ClearGov. And I'm scheduled for training on Thursday, so I'm wondering if we should just do it the way we normally do it this year. It seems kind of foolish to spend my time training when, the following week is the town meeting. I'm sure
Right.
we
How long would,
can take that on for
sorry.
a future project.
what's the time frame for ClearGov to be up and running?
They finally replicated last year's book to my satisfaction. I mean, they were looking for other types of raw documentation rather than what they had from other offices, the administration office, some of the rules to town meeting and so forth. So I was supposed to train with them this coming Thursday to set up the new book, which I can still do that through ClearGov. It's just going to be a replication of our normal budget book. It's not going to be, I know that ClearGov is way more inclusive than that potentially. No other departments. Town report could eventually be done through that. It actually could have been done through that. But I don't know that it makes any sense to get, unless Fred knows how to use it, I don't know that it makes any sense for me to get trained just for me to walk out the door.
I agree. I think that's very pragmatic approach, Lisa.
Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Robert, at some point I'll reach out to them and I'll, get the training needed for, at least for next year.
Okay.
And I can work with Lisa like we do every year on, what we put together. It's just a matter of updating all the numbers.
Mr. Chair, I think that makes probably the best sense is that we'll use, last year's framework, obviously updated for this year, but we are in a position, and thank you, Lisa, for all of your efforts with that. We are in a position, and Fred can pick up on moving forward with the ClearGov product to further develop that functionality, including the budget book. And through the chair, I did ask Carly, for the shared screen to put up last year's budget book. And again, in the interest of time, obviously we want to update all of this, but just wanted to see if there were anything that the BI board thought should be tweaked or added to within reason. So if you go to, the table of contents, this from last year, we had the organizational chart of the town, the residence guide. Yeah, you could go through, Carly. So there's the organizational chart. Yeah, we could just scroll through quickly. So the organizational chart. Then we had the residence guide to town meeting, which is a standing document that's also on the website. A glossary of town meeting terms, largely financial terms, the budget process and the budget calendar. And of course, we would capture this from what we've been using all along. Revenues and expenditures as related to the FY23 budget. Omnibus budget revenue. Omnibus budget and revenue, and using the arrows to show any deltas, any changes, increases, decreases. The operating expenses. And then same thing, major drivers of the operating expenses. What I think we should put here, I could add a page. Obviously, one of the major drivers, and we talked about this before, are the new personnel positions that are in the budget. So what I'm thinking is we could obviously have all of the major drivers represented by this slide and then have a this page, and then have a subsequent page that would at least give a breakdown, the amounts and a synopsis of the proposed positions in the budget. The omnibus operating expenses using a visual pie graph by category. The omnibus budget, and this is in the warrant, obviously would switch this be the FY23. Okay, and then the 2 school assessments. Capital budget overview. Obviously, we'd update this for the capital. And then the next series of pages deal with the articles on the enterprise fund: solid waste, ambulance, sewer, water. And then the free cash allocation, and this slide showed which articles deal with that, the purpose of the use and the amount. We had the debt service by departments, the staffing counts by location, as this is a question that often comes up. Okay, is that it? And that was sort of it in a nutshell. So that was the framework we've been using. Obviously for next year, with the ClearGov, there'll probably be some further revisions and so forth.
My only feedback would be, it's not worth putting a lot of effort into a document that's going to be replaced for next year, but on the free cash allocation slide would be to add a roll forward of the free cash balances. So our beginning balance going into this budget cycle, the additions that we're putting in, and then what our ending balance for capital, for stabilization, my apologies. And then the breakdown between regular stabilization and capital stabilization.
Okay.
Because I think that's one of the questions that always comes up, particularly where we've had quite a bit of free cash over the last couple of years. We've been squirreling into stabilization, is that what's our balance? Mark, you have a question?
It's a question, it's a comment, and I don't know quite how to frame it, but if you look on page 22, when you use arrows to indicate the direction that something's going, the arrows should reflect what up is usually positive, but up could be negative also. So if you look at the first 5 lines, up is actually a negative. So those should be red.
Yeah, it's a good observation.
Because the cost went up. And the bottom 2 should be green because the cost went down. And there's a page before that, and I didn't quite catch the colors of the arrows, but one could argue the same for here is depending upon, the state aid went up, that's great. That'd be green. If the debt exclusions went down, if going down is bad, then it should be red. Now, with all that said, to get away from the visual aspect of it, you could just make the arrows just whatever you want, a solid color, a gray color or whatever, and then let people decide whether up is good or down is good or up is bad. That just comes from the business that I'm in.
Jim, you have a question or comment?
Here on page 12, it asks the question at the second to the bottom paragraph: are town meetings run according to Robert's Rules of Order? And it says that the town will use town meeting time. We've been using it for 3 years, so maybe the phrase should be the town uses town meeting time. But I wanted to call attention to the difference between this copy of the residence guide and the copy that's on the town website under the town meeting pages, under the town clerk. That one still says we're using Robert's Rules of Order. It's an older version that wasn't corrected, so I just wanted to call your attention to that. But that's a different matter. But
Okay.
that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anything else for the budget book?
So through the
Lisa?
chair, I believe in the last minutes for our last meeting, I think it may have been you who requested a summary, or it could have been Patrick, of COVID revenues versus expenses, and COVID-related, CARES Act and opera-related revenues versus expenses. I
Yeah, I
don't
do think that was Pat.
know.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, anything else? No, okay. All right. Thank you, Robert, for coordinating it. Thank you, Carly, for presenting that. So moving on from the budget book, FY 2023 budget presentation for town meeting.
Mr. Chair, so similar. So as everyone is aware, and for this year, it will be Article 6 is the omnibus budget. So historically, obviously, when the article is read and it's moved and seconded, and is on the floor, at that point, we have generally done a brief presentation on the budget. And I say it's taken different forms in the years. Some of us have done parts of it, some of us have done all of it, but the point is that at Article 6, before the moderator generally goes through in asking folks on their holds, we've done a brief presentation that has served a few purposes. One is sometimes the presentation will answer at least some of the major questions, not always. Secondly, I think obviously it's the largest in terms of financial impact, article to give it a moment of presentation. And third, if there are any questions that it further generates. Now, what we have put up, this was from last year in terms of the format. And I think one of the things similar to the budget book, I think that the challenge is, as we all know, you could easily give a presentation on the budget for an hour or frankly, a couple days. It's trying to synthesize the major points for town meeting, down to, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. So that's always the challenge. So would be interested in any feedback as far as the topics to touch upon or not touch upon, or what we need to change. We can go through this just briefly. There's just a few slides from last year. The other thing is, to some extent, we've been talking about the budget since the fall of last year, developing, and there's all the material is out there, but we know that inevitably there's folks that haven't seen it or so forth. So why don't we just go through the slides real quick, Carly, and just see what folks think as far as topics. So in the past, we've used this budget building blocks, showing the revenue, the expense and savings, and sort of graphically showing how we get to the balanced budget. Then the next was again on revenue and expenditures, showing the general fund revenues and the general fund expenditures. And again, as I mentioned, this is sort of much higher level, 50,000-foot view. And then we touched upon the omnibus budget revenues. They're showing the trends of the revenues. Then below, the next slide was the revenue movement. And again, point noted from Mr. Smith about the arrows. And in this somewhat, we tried to have it also mirror a little bit the budget book, as folks will have that in hand. But the major revenue movement and then the omnibus operating expenses. And then the operating expense by category. And then the major drivers. And then the school assessments, as those will be that's Article 7 is Ayer Shirley Regional School, and Article 8 is the Neshoba. And that was sort of it in a nutshell. I would suggest, as I mentioned, I think on the budget book, we should have a slide again with the new positions, again, some kind of synopsis as the personnel requests are the largest, driver in it. So that's just one thought I had, but I didn't know what other folks' thoughts were in terms of content, approach, and so forth.
I'll open up to any questions or comments.
The comment would be is if you have if you have had success with what it looks like, then continue that success. I mean, if it gets the point across, it gets the point across. And I'm good with it.
Yeah, I agree. I like the real high level look, the the more visual approach to it. And the only item that I can think of to add to it would just be on the Neshoba assessment, is just put a little asterisk and then add a note down below what's driving the movement, because that's usually based upon student population. Because it's a pretty big increase this year compared to prior years. So at least we'll call that out within the slide itself.
Okay.
And I might only add too that you can have backup slides and have all those backup slides hidden. And then if a question gets asked, whoever's running the slideshow, you could say, hey, go to slide such and such.
Yes, through the chair to
Please.
Mark's point. So yeah, think of this Article 6 presentation we're talking about as just the high level visual. We will be prepared to answer or provide information, in more detail on any specific question, especially when we get into when residents through the moderator have a hold on an item, they have a question or so forth. We will be, so to Mark's point, as you know, Mr. Chair, there will be additional materials that will be loaded and available if needed on specific questions. For example, again, on the new position requests, we anticipate some material there. All of the departments that have capital are prepared with backup information on the capital, as well as any of the major changes in the budget. So that's a good point.
All right. Okay. Any other comments on the presentation?
I'd like to say that I think it looked excellent last year, and I concur with Mark that the visual really helped to build confidence in the voters. They attended, they got the idea, and there's always going to be a couple that are going to nitpick certain questions, and I'm glad you'll be prepared for that, Robert. I know that a couple of people have said, what's the story about the new positions? Do we really need them, or do we need the firemen? But that's, of course, a different warrant article. But I really like what I saw last year. And I think that really made me proud of Ayer, that it was so well presented. So I felt very comfortable with that as a new resident, and I agree with Mark. If it does work, don't try to fix it. Only mucks the water.
Thank you, Jim. All right. Excellent.
I have an elephant in the room kind of question, and it might go under this item number 5, or it might be under the next item 6.
Well, feel free to bring it up. Mark, go ahead.
What happens if anyone wants to address and has a question to the finance committee?
Mhm.
What
So,
is going to be my answer?
in
Or
regard, like,
and
for
do
what-
I need to have, do I need to have my, and I hate to say it this way, do I need to have my script ready for what I need to say on how I need to answer questions?
So when I was on the committee, we had one budget cycle where we didn't have quorum, and similar situation right now going into town meeting. It was explained to us that even though we're members of the finance committee, we are attending town meeting as individuals, though we are grouped together by the committee that we're on. So any questions to the finance committee, you are able to answer that on behalf of the committee, even though there is not quorum, because we've also had town meetings where we didn't have a full quorum of the finance committee present. In regards to having a script put together, the only answer I can give you to that is, one of the reasons why it's important to have a separate or a parallel process through the budget with the finance committee, in addition to the select board, is being able to vet any potential differences of either differences of opinion or even differences of interpretation. And that's really where the finance committee can come in very beneficial to the community. So, you're not, even though you've been very heavily involved in this process, if someone asks a question of the finance committee, you're answering on, behalf of the finance committee of your own accord. You don't owe us anything on an explanation of how you want to answer a question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, does that make sense?
It does. But as we've gone through this process, to me, all those, if there was a difference of opinion, all those opinions were brought up in the meetings and we worked through them. So I could easily say that we're of one mind. The finance committee, the select board was of one mind, and that's why the recommendations are as such.
And that's a perfectly good answer. The fact that the processes are so intertwined between the two groups is by design over the last couple of years. And we've had only a handful of town meetings since I've been doing this, which going back 13 years or so, I think, where we had a difference. And so, out of 13 years, I think maybe 2 times we had a difference in the opinions on the budget. So that's a perfectly acceptable answer.
Okay, thank you.
If asked, I will call upon you, Mark, to answer the question, but not to put you on the spot. I'm aware, and I see a chuckle from the center, that somebody in particular is going to ask the position of the finance committee, and as individuals, your presence at the budget forums and your presence here at the executive buy board, which I've witnessed since the beginning of this budget season. I know that you and Patrick, talked about that, asked questions. Lou Conrad's been involved. I don't think there should be an issue, and I'm going to do my best to ensure that there's harmony. I really think the spirit that I'm going to address the meeting with in the beginning is harmony is a group of instruments and a group of notes that work together to make something beautiful. And I really think that that's what we have to focus on, is the positive aspect. So I'm going to try to preempt all the potentially negative sideline comments that might come up. So don't fear.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman.
I guess- No, Robert, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to that, Mark, if you look at, and I can send it to you, I think I may have, but if not, Article 4 or number 4, bylaw number 4 of the town deals with the town finances. And I just want to clarify this point because some of the detractors and some of the members of my fan club like to bring this up, and you might want to check over bylaw number 4. It specifically says that the FinCom can make report on the budget or any financial articles. However, it also says that if the FinCom doesn't have a specific report, that does not prevent town meeting or any of the articles from moving forward. Also, Article 4 does not specifically require the Finance Committee to submit an alternate budget. Now, that doesn't mean that it couldn't in the future. And as Mr. Hood mentioned, I think there were 2 years where there were through that divergent process. So if you want to just check out that too, Mark, because I know folks tend to bring up sometimes at town meeting and not erroneously bring up, number one, that the FinCom has to have a formal report for the things to move forward. It doesn't. And secondly, it should, don't get me wrong, I'm not, it should, but it doesn't have to, because there's certain individuals that try to bring that up. And secondly, that the FinCom does not have to have a separate budget. So just some clarifying points.
That's the email that you sent that the town council weighed in on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
I would ask you, Mark, to just go over the budget so you know what, the particulars are. If somebody were to ask a question, and just, I think we're all in agreement that you'd say, having attended the meetings, I agree with what's presented. You're, in essence, according to the state presentation on Town Finance Handbook that I sent you a copy of, it says you're just presenting your opinion of its validity as the legislative branch. So I think you're totally right to say exactly, I concur. It's all good.
Yeah, and Mark, I would recommend having a print off of the detailed budget in front of you just for those moments if they do
Okay.
come up.
Will do.
Okay, excellent. Anything else for a town meeting before we move on to new business? No, great, thank you. So next item on the agenda is new business. There's nothing listed there, but is there anything anyone wants to address in the near future once we get through town meeting?
Mr. Chair, as I mentioned the last meeting, once we get through town meeting for our next meeting in May, so I mentioned at a new business. So in advance of our next meeting, I said I would put together the list of all of the new business items before this committee. So I'll get that together in advance of the next meeting. And then perhaps at the May meeting, we can begin to discuss a sort of plan of attack on the various issues.
All right, thank you, Robert. Next item is scheduling of our next meeting. So Robert did mention May. And going by our usual cadence, I believe it would be May 10th.
And
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr. Chair, we have that listed.
Okay,
The issue, Mr. Chair, is May 10th is the annual town election. So under the Secretary of State's advice, and I know we meet remotely, but still, the recommendation is that there's no public meetings during the election. So
understood. Do we want to push it to Monday or Wednesday of that week, or just push it 1 week?
if we pushed it 1 week, it's up to you, Mr. Chairman. There's a select board meeting that night, but we've been meeting at 2 on Zoom.
Yeah, this one's gonna be, I'm flexible with that if we want to just push it a week.
to the 17th. That would make sense in the sense that way we're not in conflict with the guidance of having public meetings during the election.
Okay.
So the 17th at
Robert,
2.
I just wanna, I'm looking at your schedule. I don't know that you're gonna be around on the 17th.
That could be a good thing.
Well, you're bringing the big list of new business.
I'm happy to read your list of new business.
Yeah, in the event that I'm not, I'll check. The assistant town manager will have the list to you in advance. But I think the
Okay.
17th is good.
That works for me.
2 o'clock.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, Jim.
So I just wanted you all to know that I wanted to find out, Lisa, are you going to continue to be on the selection committee, or are you passing the baton to Fred?
Selection committee for,
The finance committee membership?
yeah, I don't think it's appropriate for me to continue to be on that committee. I'm not a resident, nor am I really the finance director anymore. So tag Fred, you're it.
Okay, well, we did have one person that came to mind. They sent me an email, so I'll pass that along to the others. I'm not aware of the details of the particular candidate because they didn't send their resume. But because there's at least 3 of the members here from the committee, I did want to point that out to you.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Wait, no resume?
He didn't present a resume. He just said he had some background in finance, a bachelor's in finance, and I don't exactly know anything about what he does. He used the boards and committees page to submit his inquiry to the finance committee. He didn't indicate, I don't know when he applied, but he sent me a copy to the Ayer email address.
Okay, but I would argue that since I had to submit a resume, my expectation would be somebody else would have to submit a resume also.
Exactly. I did indicate to him immediately that absent of a resume, his application is insufficient, and I could not proceed any further because I would not submit it to the committee without one.
And
Can we sort this out? I have a lot of work to do today. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All
Not quite the venue. You guys can touch base. If you have any questions of me, please feel free to reach out.
Okay.
Okay, so our last item is adjournment. So if there's nothing else, open up to the committee for any questions or comments before we take a motion of adjournment. All right, anyone want to make a motion?
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting, the executive board meeting of Tuesday, the 12th of April at 2:44 p.m.
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Antonellis?
Aye.
Mr. Pompriand?
Aye.
Ms. Tierney?
Aye.
Mr. Aponte?
Aye.
And Ms. Gabri for the last time.
Bye.
All right. Thank you very much, Lisa. Thanks for all your help and hard work over the years. Greatly appreciated. You will be missed.
Don't worry, you're in good hands with Fred.
I know.
Thanks,
All
Lisa.
right. Good afternoon, everyone.